Hi, it's Hope and welcome to the video. This, as you can tell by the thumbnail and the title, is going to be my May mid-month wrap-up, which it's insane to think that it's the 16th when I'm filming this. Yes, I am horrible at keeping track of dates. But let's talk about the 16 books that I finished in the first 15 days. Actually, technically 14 days, because I haven't finished anything in the last 2 days. So you may think that's a little crazy, and I know it is a little bit excessive, but as I talk about the books, you'll understand why I read so many. So the first book I read and I got started and finished this month in May is Air by Katee Robert, which is the second book in the Bloodline Vampire series. The first book is Sacrifice, where essentially we follow Mina, who is a half vampire, and she is essentially, her whole life has been controlled by her father, and her father sends her to this house where there is this bloodline vampire named Malachi, and bloodline vampires are very powerful, very rare, and very ancient. And Mina's father has this plan for Mina and Malachi to have a kid so then there would be a new bloodline of vampires that Mina's father can control, basically. And Mina and Malachi decide other things, and this is a reverse harem because two of Malachi's friends get roped into this plan that is created, and I gave this 3 stars. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad. It's more of like, where was the plot? Because the first one did have a good plot. The second one kind of went, a plot? What is that? We're just going to throw a bunch of sex scenes together and hope it works. Not complaining, but I just wish there's a little bit more of a plot. It is only like 140 pages, so really, I can't complain. The next book I read was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I technically started this in April, but I read majority of it in May, and this essentially follow Lily, who ends up meeting this guy named Ryle, and they end up forming this friendship that turns into a relationship. And we also see Lily's past as she's reading these journals about when she was 15 and when she was meeting this boy named Atlas. And that's all I'm going to explain. That is all I knew going into this, really. Honestly, I don't even think I knew that much. And this book broke me. I gave this 5 stars. It isn't my favorite Colleen Hoover book, but I still loved it. I don't really have any other thoughts. Everything I want to say is spoilers, but yeah. The next book I read was The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas, and this was the late night bookworming book club pick for April, but I didn't get to read it until May. I literally started it May 1st. But essentially this we follow Catalina, who she has to go to her sister's wedding, and she has kind of promised her family that she is going to be bringing a boyfriend that does not exist and has never existed. So Catalina has to kind of find somebody to be her fake boyfriend at her sister's wedding, and Aaron Blackford, who is a co-worker of Catalina's, offers, and it is the two of them fake dating, the feelings develop, and yeah, I enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. It would have been a 5 stars if the main character of Catalina was not a annoying character. She was annoying in some aspects, but I still enjoyed the book, and I listened to this audiobook, and I really loved the narration. The next book, or books I shall say, I buddy read with my friend Morgan on a live. We decided to buddy read the entire Heartstopper series. I don't own volume 3, but the books that we read were Heartstopper volume 1, Heartstopper volume 2, Heartstopper volume 3, and Heartstopper volume 4, and then what is currently up on Webtoons for volume 5, but I'm not counting that because, well, it's not published. But in volume 1, we follow Nick and Charlie. They go to this all-boys school, and Charlie is openly gay, and essentially the two of them meet, become friends, and then feelings get developed, and it is just this beautiful fucking story. that gets very depressing once you get towards the end. And the reason why we read all these books was so that we could watch the Heartstopper TV show, aka I could watch it for my 5th time. Update, I'm on my 8th rewatch, and so that Morgan could watch it for the first time because they wanted to watch the show, but they wanted to read the source material first. And I just need to get volume 3, and then I own all of them, although I want the US editions, the UK editions, the Fairy Loot editions, and I'm literally contemplating getting a tattoo dedicated for these series because I love them so much. So obviously I gave these 5 stars. You may also notice I read these at the end of April. I'm obsessed. Don't judge. And one thing you will also notice is a lot of these further books in this list were also buddy read with Morgan, and the next book I read was Serpent's Touch by Marina Simcoe, and this I gave 5 stars. This essentially, we follow Amira, who she is a part of this menagerie, and she works for the owner of this menagerie that deals with otherworldly creatures, and she ends up meeting Kylan, who is essentially almost one of these attractions at the menagerie, and the two of them form a friendship and then run away to this other world where Kylan is actually from. And this I gave 5 stars. It's more of because of the experience. How I picked this book up is Morgan and I were on a StreamYard, and she was like, I need to pick a book. I will also leave Morgan's channel below because literally the rest of these books basically I read with her. But essentially, Morgan needed to find a book. She picked a book out of a tub, and that's the book that was read. And about 30 pages in, I get told she hit him in the eye with a cucumber, and I was like, I'm fucking sorry. She did what? So I had to read the book, and we ended up staying up till 2 a.m. reading it. I feel like that story just needed to be shared. So, yeah. And I did enjoy it as it was so fun to read because there was such unrealistic moments, and also just the main characters were their interactions were so cute because it was essentially Kylan's if Amira basically looks at Kylan, she will die, because he is almost, I can't remember exactly what the term is, but it's almost like Medusa and her gaze turns people to stone. He kind of has the same thing almost. So yeah, I'm very excited for Serpents. I don't remember the sequels to this. Comes out on the 22nd, and me and Morgan will 100% be buddy reading that, hands down. The next book I read was This Winter by Alice Oseman, which is it is a novella that takes place in the middle of Heartstopper. Essentially, it is a Christmas novella where we follow the Spring family, which is Charlie's family, and on a Christmas, and it is just a Christmas novella that deals with stuff, and I gave this 5 stars because, well, I absolutely loved it. It made me cry. I don't know, my feelings on it are just it just hit my chest really hard. It was like a freaking freight train just going into my heart, but you do know that things do get better for the characters. And I want to read so many more Alice Oseman's books, because, well, again, I'm obsessed. So, yeah. Now the next 7 books, yes, you heard 7 books, were all read for the 72 Hours in the Smut Den, which was a, readathon, a 72-hour readathon hosted by Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy, Rye from Rye's Reading Corner, Bobby from Bobby Reads, and Mel from Melanor Reads, and it was essentially read as many smutty books as you can in 72 hours. So me and Morgan buddy read 7. So I'm just going to kind of rapid fire speed through these because I don't really have a lot of thoughts on them. So the first 2 books we read were, well, the first and third, but they're part of a series, is Dipped in Holly by Dana Isley, and Claimed by Cupid by Dana Isley. And essentially, they're like 2 books in a series. The first book, Dipped in Holly, we essentially follow Holly, who she gets dumped like a week before Christmas at a bar, and the owner of the bar, Nick, ends up coming to comfort her, and then after the bar closes, they end up having a night of wild sex. That is basically the book, and I gave this 2 stars. This was a reread for me. I read it back in December when it came out, but then upon a reread, my thoughts are just like, it was not as good. I shouldn't have reread it. I don't regret rereading it, but it was just kind of like, it was okay, but I just didn't like it as much the second time around. I don't really know what else to say, really, about it. And then Claimed by Cupid is the Valentine's Day special, so essentially we follow Nick and Holly on Valentine's Day, and this I gave 3 stars because it actually had a bit of, like, the characters seemed a bit better, and, like, the sex scenes were a bit better because it's, like, a BDSM relationship between the 2 of them, and in the first book, it was absolute crap, and the second book, it did get a little better. And this was a reread for me as well. The next book we read was The Risk by S.T. Abbey, and this I gave a 3.5. This essentially follows Lana, who is a serial killer, trying to get revenge on people that hurt her in the past, and a FBI agent named Logan, who is trying to figure out who this serial killer is that is killing people. And Lana and Logan meet, and Lana knows that Logan is an FBI agent looking for her. Logan has no idea the serial killer's Lana. And it was really good, because you're sitting there almost like, is he gonna find out? Oh no, what's gonna happen next? I do plan on continuing this series because the books are very short, and also I feel like I just like will really like the rest of them. I've heard that the series does only get better, so that also makes me happy to continue with it. The next book is Queen Takes Night by Jolie Sue Burkhart. My brain farted on the author, and essentially in this we follow Shara, who she discovers that she is a vampire queen, and essentially the plot is she discovers she's a vampire queen after these knights tell her, and the knights end up trying to protect her as she learns more about being a vampire and about being a queen. And it is smutty. It is, well, in the first book it is MMF. The spicy scenes are really good. In this I listened to the audiobook and read the ebook, and I loved the audiobook. Listening to smut and reading smut definitely are 2 different things, and I did enjoy this because you learn a lot about the, I guess, the not mythology surrounding like Shara being a vampire, but just overall there's some like mythology in the world, and it all just kind of makes sense in a weird way, and you just, it's like, it's set in our own world but with all these other elements, and is just really fucking good, and I'm dying to pick up book 2. And Queen Takes Night I gave a 4 star. The next book I read was The Dragon Bride by Katie Robert, which I gave a 3.5. Essentially we follow Briar, who, to get out of an abusive relationship with her husband, she ends up making a deal with the demon Azazel to essentially get out of her predicament, and by doing so she ends up getting basically kind of almost sold to a dragon, and she has to stay married with him for 7 years. This I gave a 3.5. I don't know if I've already said that, but I hate that I like this book because it's a dragon and a human. The dragon has 2 dicks. That's literally the only thing that made me want to read it, is because I was like, how the fuck does he have 2 dicks? Yeah, I read weird shit. Just judge me all you want. I don't care. You would know that if you've been subscribed for any point of time. I just read whatever the fuck I want and don't care about other people's opinions. But I like this. I don't really have any thoughts except I'm continuing the series. The next book is about Kraken, so tentacles. That's gonna be fun. I'm laughing at myself for saying that, but let's just move on. The next book I read was Omens by Dana Isley, which is the 3rd and final book in the Triad series. which essentially in the first book, which is Scars, we follow Scarlet, who ends up getting kidnapped by these 3 guys that label themselves the Triad, and essentially at first they're going to use her as blackmail against her family, who she ran away from I can't remember how many years prior. But instead of that, she decides that she wants to help them get revenge on her family, and it is a mafia-ish reverse harem. I gave Omens 4.5 because I love these characters. And I love how dark it is. I just like the characters. That's mainly it. I also love how quick and easy they are to read. And I'm very excited because in the, it was either the author's note or the acknowledgments, I can't remember exactly which, the author has confirmed that there will be a, spin-off, and I'm like, I need that, how about tomorrow, because I love the characters, I love this world, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And then the final book that I've read this month, that I finished, because I have 4 books started too, but we're not going to talk about those. But the final book that I finished this month is The Reaper Incarnate by who the fuck is it by? By R.E. Bond and C.A. Renee. Believe that's the authors, if I wrote them down correctly. But essentially this, we follow Celine, she works as a prostitute, and essentially how she runs her business is she ends up finding people, finding men that have sexually assaulted or manipulated women and children, and she essentially uses her business to kill them. She does a job that a prostitute would and then kills them. But with her most recent client, she discovers that it is going to be a little bit more difficult as he has a son involved, and Selena ends up meeting the son and 3 of the son's friends, and the 5 of them end up coming up with a plan to kill the father. And in the meantime, there is definitely wild sex. I'm talking some of the darkest shit I've ever read. I am honestly kind of almost scarred by some of the stuff. And this is the first book in a trilogy, and I kind of hate how much I loved it, but this was dark. If I ever need a dark book, I will be continuing the series, as I did really enjoy it. I gave it 3.5 stars. So yeah, those are the 16 books I've read this month so far. Definitely kind of a wild mix of books, I guess. But also, I'm not surprised. Let me know in the comments below, what is one book you have read in May? And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and bye!